Okay, let's go to the book. When you look within and see me, it will be because you have decided to manifest truth. Very simply, if you look within and don't see me, it's because you've gone within to see yourself, to see what you think, to see what you're confident about, to see what your skills are, so that you can see what you can do to make things better in the world, or even at times to make things worse for someone in your world. If you've gone in to see yourself, you haven't decided to manifest truth. You've decided to manifest your arrogance. You've gone within because you've decided to be the authority here and to do it well. And yet this one who's going to be an authority and do things well thinks it's an orphan, thinks it has no connection with God, thinks it has no divine source. It just thinks it is an organism, a body. Here today, gone tomorrow. While you're here, make the best of everything that you can, you see. So, when you look within and see me, it will be because you have decided to manifest truth. And as you manifest it, you will see it both without and within. For you will see it without, in other words, out there, because you saw it first within. The messengers you send out by your intent will always come back, confirming to you what you sent them out to find, whether there's something else there or not. It's called self-deception. But if your desire is to see truth, and the messengers you send out are a willingness to see truth, what is really true, they will come back, confirming to you what is true, because you saw it first within. Because that was your desire first within. Everything you behold out there, without having seen it first within, everything you behold without is a judgment of what you have beheld within. If you haven't gone within to ask of God what a thing is, you've gone within to ask what your best judgments say a thing is, or what the educated say a thing is, or what history says a thing is. And that can only constitute a judgment, an appraisal of what a thing is, the best appraisal that history or the educated ones or you have come to. You see? If it is your judgment, it will be wrong. For judgment is not your function. See, judgment is not your function. It's not your function to assess and come to conclusions about things. But if you think you're an orphan, you think that is your primary function. Because if you don't get a handle on your world, and if you don't get a handle on your brother's behavior or his attitude, or what's making him tick, you will be at a disadvantage because you have no natural safety. You have no inherent invulnerability. And so your basic function is to engage in constant judgments, to stay abreast of things in this hostile world that this poor little orphan that you are lives in. If it is your judgment, it will be wrong, for judgment is not your function. Before we go on, what is your function if judgment isn't your function? Your function is to be conscious. Your function is to be aware. Your function is to experience what is happening and recognize God in it. Your function is to recognize God in it and experience the natural awe that spontaneously arises out of the clear awareness of the movement of creation. That's your function. It is your function to joy in the conscious experience of reality. Right here in Kingston, Washington, right there in Bellingham, Washington, right there on the East Coast, and right there in Iraq. You see. That's your function and your birthright, to have the joy of recognizing it, truly seeing it, and having it truly represent the presence of God in movement. Again, if it is your judgment, it will be wrong, for judgment is not your function. If it is the judgment of the Holy Spirit, it will be right, for judgment is His function. The Holy Spirit looks and sees God. The Holy Spirit, which is nothing more than your right mind, sees everything and recognizes God in it and joys in the awesome experience of it. That's what your right mind actually is doing right now, even though you are conscientiously ignoring it because you're giving preference to this little blueprint of a mind that you've concocted that's part of an organism that's here today and gone tomorrow, and better make the best of everything. You see. Okay. You share His, the Holy Spirit's function, only by judging as He does. Well, you can only judge as He does by choosing not to validate your own judgments anymore or to engage in making them anymore. You share His function only by judging as He does, reserving no judgment at all unto yourselves. Meaning, neglecting to bother to exercise a right you think you have to come to your own conclusions. Now, the way I said that makes it sound like your right to come to your own conclusions is, not that big a deal. But as an orphan, your right to come to your own conclusions is your primary function. It's what ultimately makes you stand out from someone else. It's what makes you valid, you think. So your right to make judgments for yourself is something you place a very high value on, and you work constantly to increase its value. And so to say, abandon your right to come to your own conclusions, well, we're talking about abandoning something that is seemingly of ultimate importance to you. It's like abandoning yourself. It's like letting yourself slip through the cracks. It's like annihilation of you. When all it is a letting go of a blueprint that you put into place, overlaying what you really are, which has therefore covered up to you what you really are. It therefore doesn't constitute any real loss at all, but it does constitute true gain. You share his function only by judging as he does, which means only as you let him do it and let his doing of it register with you as your own doing of it, truly. Reserving no judgment at all unto yourselves. Again, abandoning any right you think you have to come to judgments on your own. For you will judge against yourselves, but he will judge for you. The truth of this and the value of it become apparent to you every time you manage to have even the smallest experience of virtue going out from you. It confirms you to yourself in a new light. And you begin to apparently change. Which means you experience healing. You experience being lifted out of the orphan blueprint, out of the orphanage, beginning to realize you have a birthright that you don't have to create for yourselves, and it's a wonderful birthright, more awesome than anything you could have imagined, you see. Remember then that whenever you look without and react unfavorably to what you see, you have judged yourself unworthy and have condemned yourself to death. Wow, where did that come from? This is heavy stuff, right? You have judged yourself unworthy and have condemned yourself to death. You say, I never did that. No. You did it, but you've covered up the fact that you did it. And now the fact that you did it comes to you in very oblique ways. Like in the saying, there are only two sure things. What? Death and taxes, right? Oh, wow. That's deeply ingrained. Everybody, whether they are familiar with that phrase or not, there is some other phrase or some feeling that conveys that meaning. There's only one sure thing, and that's death. And you don't challenge it. You accept it, and you await it, don't you? You don't like it, but you think you know that there's nothing you can do about it. You see, the minute you pull the cord out of the wall that's connected to the light bulb, the light goes out, right? The minute you unplug yourself from the Father, the light of the Father apparently goes out, and what's left has no means of supporting itself or of performing its function. And so, no matter what you imagine you're doing while you are unplugged, if you aren't doing anything to become plugged in again, nothing will come of the effort. Zero will be the result. That's death. Nothing will work. And the fact that nothing is working will ultimately become apparent. That's all it means. So when you've claimed that you're an orphan, and I know you say, I never claimed that, but you have claimed that you're just a physical organism that arose out of physical evolution. That blueprint, that idea, that concept with all of its ramifications, and your confirmation of them constitutes an active disconnection from the plug. And so you are thereby making the choice for death, making the choice for the experience of nothing working, of everything coming to nothing. The death penalty is the ego's ultimate goal. And remember, I've referred to the ego as the orphan mentality in the last few weeks. So the orphan mentality, the unplugged light bulb, has its incapacity to light up as its ultimate goal, to be finally realized. Which means that which finally realizes it realizes that its capacity to realize it is non-existent, and therefore even that seeming capacity will be acknowledged, accepted, and it will be snuffed out, if such a thing were possible. So the death penalty is the ego's, or the orphan's, ultimate goal, for it fully believes that you, it, are a criminal, as deserving of death as God knows you are deserving of life. You all know, in other words, that you cannot ultimately succeed at being independent of the Father. The only thing is that while you're still trying, that's bad news. Once you stop trying and you're willing to re-embrace your Father, it's the good news, and it supports you in your walk home. The death penalty never leaves the ego's mind. You know, if you had no concept of the things we've been talking about, you would walk around, and although you wouldn't think about it, the fact that one day you're going to die will be present in your sense of your existence today, when you're 18 years old, or 25 years old, or 50 or 60 years old. And if you don't die isn't it a funny word, a natural death? If you don't die a natural death, well, there could be, tomorrow, an accidental death, right? That's how devoted you are to death, or that's how devoted to things not working the orphan mentality is, or the ego. The death penalty never leaves the ego's mind, for that is what it always reserves for you in the end. Wanting to kill you as the final expression of its feeling for you, it lets you live, but to await death, to endure the experience of living until the inevitable happens. It will torment you while you live. What if you woke up in the morning aware that you couldn't die? Literally, truly aware that you couldn't die, and the experience of invulnerability was yours. I promise you, your sense of the coming day would be entirely different, and the way you got out of bed might be that you would leap out of bed instead of cautiously and sleepily putting your feet on the floor with your hands still on the bed, hoping that maybe you can lie back down and not face the inevitable. You see? So that's the torment. When you don't know and you don't seem to have the experience of invulnerability available to you, the way you live your days is in torment. It might not be overwhelming, but it's a drudge. It's not fulfilling. You are tormented. It will torment you. You will live in a tormented state while you live, but its hatred is not satisfied until you die, for your destruction is the one end toward which it works, and the only end with which it will be satisfied. I tell you that right now your life is eternal. Now, it's eternal whether you seem to put yourself through an experience called death or not. But I'm saying that you are eternal, and there does not have to be any form of the experience of death. And remember, last week I pointed out that sickness, in its various degrees of seriousness, are just lesser degrees of death. It's your birthright not to be experiencing any of that. You don't have to play the ego's game. You don't have to play the game of being an orphan. And you no longer have to be confident, excruciatingly confident, that you will die. You don't have to do it. You hear that? You don't have to do it. You don't have to be devoted to that idea. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because in my telling you that there's a way for you to experience your eternality and your invulnerability, you are inclined to say, that's going to be far too hard for me. You are asking me to stand taller than I can possibly stand. You're asking me to be something I can't possibly be without a great deal of energy and effort. And you know what? I probably don't have enough years left in which to succeed. I think I would rather stick with my present conviction and let the process of death come upon me Because that I can make commitment to. That I can justify. I can't justify being in the world in a way that no one but you, Jesus, have managed to be. I can't justify it. I can't fathom it. I don't believe that I can be only the second one ever to do it. You see? And what are you saying? You're saying, it's easier for me to stay committed to death. And just let this terminal disease called life play itself out. So you've taken the ego's bait, hook, line, and sinker. Again, earlier I said, you have judged yourself unworthy and have condemned yourself to death. And at that point I said, well, you would say, I haven't done that. But now you can see that at this very moment you're willing to do that. You're willing to say, I can't justify being only the second person in history ever to not die. I can't believe it. It's just too impossible for me to wrap my mind around. And so you're still condemning yourself to death right this minute. Now, that's not punishable. The ignorant experience of torment is hell enough, is punishment enough, but nobody's laying it upon you. You're laying it upon yourself by means of your unwillingness to conceive of something greater than what you already believe. That's all. And so the Father isn't judging you, and I'm not judging you, and I'm not saying you're wrong and what's wrong with you and so on. I'm just saying, here's what you're doing, and you can do something different, and I am encouraging you to do the something different, even though it may make you stand out separate and apart from everyone else until they get it. And they may get it because you stood out and did it second. You see? But you've got to stop condemning yourself to death by being willing to conceive of yourself as being the second, third, fourth, or fifth one. To not apparently go through a death process. For many of you on the globe, it's already Easter morning. For some of you, it's close to Easter morning. You could say that the truth that I've been sharing with you are the first rays of light shining on you consciously, in a way that is registering with you. And it's a time that you can dare to not reconfirm your commitment to death and to come out of the tomb, to come out of the orphanage, to come out of the ignorance